take is about the ground plan of Organon. As we all know, Organon of Medicine it is said to be the Bible of homeopathy, and it has got several editions, and we usually study the fifth and sixth edition combined, or the sixth edition. So, coming to Organon, actually in Organon we have a part like this. Organon is be divided into two parts. The first one will be an introduction part, and then it will be an Organon proper, and it will be containing the theoretical part or doctrinal part from aphorisms 1 to 70, and a practical part from aphorism 71 to 291. So when we start to study Organon with a ground plan, we need to understand what it is meant by a ground plan. It is just like a blueprint. We have to understand what it is, where it is, where we have to look at, and where we have to concentrate while studying. And from the past previous question papers, I have found it that a little bit of questions are asked from the introduction part, that is from the prefaces, from the different editions, like that. So as I start today, I start with the introduction part, where we start with the term organon. The term organon, it is coming from the Greek word meaning organum, which means the tool or the instrument. So actually this is an Aristotelian term, organon, and it was adopted by Hahnemann. But Hahnemann did not take it directly from Aristotle. He just took it from Bacon, because Bacon was follower of Aristotelian. And why he used this term organon? It is to illustrate the importance of the instrument of or tool which we are using to achieve the sole mission of healing. So in the introduction, we have a written introduction from the desk of Professor L.M. Khan, while we are following the textbook of 5th and 6th edition combined. And in it, Dr. Nyan Majumdar, he says a quote like, if Metromedica is a horse, then Organon is its rein that would guide it to its ultimate destination. So that is the importance of Organon when combined with Metromedica. So we just need to get thorough with Organon, what Hahnemann has instructed us, and how to move and how to use this tool or the instrument for the sole mission of healing. So as I said, we have got the contents. What is the content of the organon is that we know that the organon of the art of healing, it is stated like this. The title of the book is like this from the 2nd edition onwards. Up to the 6th edition, it is like this. So in that we find that there are prefaces given for various editions, and there is an introduction, a text, and an appendix. So what is meant by a preface, or what is introduction? What is meant by that? A preface, it is the author's preliminary statement on its purpose with a brief introduction to the new subject. So each time we give a preface, it is about what is the purpose behind writing this book and writing this preface, and what are things they have faced in it, we will write in the preface. And the introduction, actually we have 6 editions of Organon, but the introduction, it appeared for the first time in the 4th edition of Organon. And what was the basis of this introduction is that it was based on an essay, Indication of Homeopathic Employment of Medicines in Ordinary Practice, which was written in 1807 at Torque. So that essay was being given as an introduction. And in the text, we find the theoretical part and the practical part, and we know that the theoretical part starts from aphorism 1 to 70, and the practical part we see it from aphorism 71 to 294. And there are appendices. So this appendix, it is not written by Hahnemann. Then who compiled it? It was compiled by R.E. Dedjian with the help of Richard Hughes. Both of them were compiling this, and they have given so much of meanings, and they have put the evolution of organon, each of the edition, through its various phases of development. So in the appendix, we can see the different editions of organon, the changes which they have undergone, and some of the explanations will be given. That is, the judge's explanation will be given in the appendix session. So then we come to a translator preface. So in the translator preface, No, who is the translator of this? It is Dr. Ari Dedjian. And what has he given is that he has stated about the precursors of Organon there. And we all know that Organon is not the first book what Hahnemann has written. And before coming to Organon, he has written some other works or books. And from that, he has taken and combined it in the form of Organon. So, which are the main precursors of Organon we see is that Essay on New Principle for Ascertaining the Curative Power of Drugs, which was written in 1796, and Medicine of Experience in 1805. So, these are the two essays of which Hahnemann has taken as a precursor of Organon. And we know that we have got 6 editions of Organon. First edition in 1810, second in 1819, third in 1824, fourth in 1829, fifth in 1833, and sixth in 1921. So these editions and their peculiarities has been just mentioned in the translator's preface, where he gives that the mesmerism was introduced in the third edition, and in the fourth edition, the theory of chronic disease was introduced. In the fifth edition, there is vital force and dynamization of medicines included. In the sixth edition, that is in 1921, there is repetition of doses different from fifth edition. So while giving about the repetition of doses in the sixth edition, we say that some of the things have changed from the fifth edition. And we again see that the vital force, it has been changed to vital principle. And also there is renewed dynamization. That is a new form of dynamization which Hahnemann advocated which he has achieved while he was practicing in Paris. That was also been given in the form of renewed dynamization. In the translator preface, where Dr. Dedjian speaks about these precursors of Organon, editions of Organon, novelties of each editions in a gist form, and then he acknowledged Richard Hughes for the help which he has contributed while preparing the appendix and also throughout the work. And then the appendix section is indicated by the letter A. And whenever something is written in the letter of A in our aphorisms, we can just go back to the appendix section where we can find that they have given a explanation of what it is or what is the difference from the fifth edition or with that of the sixth edition or some other editions. What was the extra knowledge they are trying to give when these editions have been evolved. So that's all about the translator's preface and their importance. So I was talking to you about the introduction translator's preface. So you'll be thinking, what is much importance of this? But you see, from the 2017, there is a question that was being asked. Doctrine of vital force was introduced in which edition of Organon of Medicine? So we all know that doctrine of vital force was introduced in which edition? As there are not much of participants, I will put out the answer. That was in the fifth edition. So these are the questions we are getting. From starting of the introduction, we can expect a question in any EAPGT. So coming to the prefaces, we are just going to see what are the important points that we see in the prefaces. So here we have got 5 prefaces and in the first preface, Hahnemann is warning the doctors against indolence, love of ease, and obstinacy because it precludes effective service at the altar of truth. Preclude means to obstruct, to abstain from. And he also says that freedom from prejudice and untiring zeal qualify the true physicians. So these are the qualities which a physician should have. And the warning also Hahnemann gives in the first preface of the first edition. And we know that the first edition, it was published when he was in Torque, and the next one in Leipzig. So the second edition preface, he says about that is the criticism on other systems, the then existing systems where they were doing too much of theoretical medicine practices, coming on with too much of speculations, where nothing has been correctly administered, but too much of torturing was there at that time. So he used to criticize the other systems, and also he tells about the Gellert's hat in the fable. What he's trying to say is that the art of the medicine at that time was a pseudo scientific fabrication, and it used to get remodeled from time to time to meet the prevailing fashion of the medical system. And so he used to just smoke at them with this, that is, they think that that is a hat they are having in the fable. So he criticizes them with this Gellert's hat in the fable, and that is what we can see in the second edition preface. And he particularly tells about the blind pernicious methods they adopt at that time. And he always says that everything in the traditional medicine was the outcome of art and imagination, and nothing was there in experience. So that was about the preface of the second edition. And now, when coming to the preface of the third edition, we see that we know that in the third edition, mesmerism was introduced, but Hahnemann was giving some respect to Baron von Brunnow because he has done a good French translation, and due to that, homeopathy was getting a little bit of publicity in that area. And while the French persons are reading those books, so Hahnemann is saying that it helped him. Baron von Brunno's this translation work has helped to spread the homeopathy in other countries. And that was about the third edition preface. And now coming to the fourth edition. In the fourth edition preface, he mentions about vis medicatrix, that is nature's self-help in diseases, that he mentions in aphorism 50 also. But he starts it with this. He is trying to give the allopathic practices at that time, and then tells about the nature's self-help in diseases also in the fourth edition preface. Now coming to preface of the fifth edition. So the allopathic term has been used there in the fifth edition preface, and there Hahnemann tells about too much of the medicinal diseases which are caused by the large doses of medicine, and he also tells about the then existing systems like if there is an excess of blood, plethora, they used to do all those things like leaching, cupping, and emetics, purgatives, drawing plasters, diaphoretics. So much of things were used, and there was too much of medicinal diseases due to large doses of medicines, which even they don't know what effect it has when being given to a human being. And he also tells that it is that homeopathy is having some merit over it, because homeopathy never uses such warm baths or mustard plasters. And he says that the other part is the demerit of allopathy, and the merits of homeopathy include dynamizations, because we believe in the spirit-like dynamic derangements of the spirit-like power, the vital force. So Hahnemann is trying to uplift homeopathy there, because nothing harmful is being done to the human beings involved. And here in the fifth edition preface, Hahnemann is just correcting that once he has given two advices, since he has also studied the same old school methods, and he has written that he used to give two advices before, but now in this fifth edition preface, Hahnemann towards the last is telling that we have to retract from the two advices which he has given. One is that in the case of psoriatic diseases, usually we apply onto the back a resinous plaster to cause itching. So Hahnemann is telling not to do so, to avoid using the resinous plaster to cause itching on the back in psoriatic diseases. And the next one is to employ electric sparks in paralytic affections. So Hahnemann is telling that these two were what faulty advices from his side, and we need not listen to it, and we have to retract from these advices, for he knows that both these appliances have proved of no service, and just the mongrel homeopaths will be doing such things with an excuse. So the two advices which he asked us to retract is using the resinous plaster to cause itching in psoriatic diseases and to avoid employing electric sparks in paralytic affections. So you see, this is a question that has been asked in 2020, where they're asking about which medicatrix refers to what. So, from the preface section also, you're getting questions because already it has been mentioned in preface about which medicatrix, and it knows that nature's self-help in diseases that is meant by which medicatrix naturae, and that has been given in the preface of the 4th edition. Also in Aphorism 50, we can learn about vis medicatrix naturae. So the main importance of the 6th edition of Organon is that apart from the translation after the death of Hahnemann, there is an introduction given by James Cross. So it is an introduction which we see in Dr. Borick's translation of the 6th edition of Hahnemann's Organon. And in the James Cross introduction, he mentions about a little bit of things, a little bit of important things, and that includes about the danger of the book being lost and epochal figures in the history of medicine. So first we can see that this book of the 6th edition, which Hahnemann finished before his death time but was unable to publish during that time, that book was in danger of being lost twice. At first, due to the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 71, and next in the military overrunning of Westphalia during the Second World War of 1914-1918. So these were the two times where this book was being in the danger of being lost. And certain UPSC question papers, they have asked this question. And next comes the 4 epochal figures in the history of medicine. And of that, he says in an order, like Hippocrates, he's the observer, Galen, the disseminator, Paracelsus, the assailer, and Hahnemann, the true experimenter. So he tells about Hippocrates first as the observer, because he was the person who introduced the art of clinical observation as a necessary basis for the pathological diagnosis. And he was the one who was practicing the true art of clinical observation. And next comes the Galen, the disseminator. What Galen was doing was that what Hippocrates have observed on clinical observations for pathological diagnosis, Galen was teaching it through his, Galen was spreading it through his teachings to the medical world. So Galen was disseminating all the clinical observations which Hippocrates has discovered for the pathological diagnosis. And what Paracelsus was doing as an assailer, Paracelsus as an assailer, he introduced the chemical as well as physical analysis into the practice of medicine. So chemistry is now involved into the practice of medicine with the help of Paracelsus. And then comes Hahnemann, who is a true experimenter. He discovered the symptomatic source of both the pathologic and therapeutic diagnosis, and thereby made the practice of medicine scientific. So the practice of medicine till the time of Hahnemann was not scientific. It was just based on some empty speculations and so much of theories. But actual experimentation and actual scientific practice was done only at the time of Hahnemann, after he found that the drug symptoms have to be proved in human beings in order to understand and to make them cure. So these are the 4 epochal figures in the history of medicine, starting from Hippocrates, Galen, Paracelsus, to Hahnemann, who is a true experimenter. So next in James Cross introduction, we are seeing Tolle causum. So all the antecedent causes of disease was given so much of importance. All were trying to find what is the cause of that disease which is making all these effects. But no one was looking away from the materialistic side of the disease. And next comes cessa effectus, cessat causa. So which says that you remove the effects and you remove the disease, and the disease, it is the cause of the effects. So once you remove the effects, you remove the disease. Just 1 second. Sorry. Sorry for the interruption. So in this James Cross introduction, following this Sessa effectus Sessa causae, remove the effects and you remove the disease, which is the cause of the effects. Next comes the number of drugs which Hahnemann has proved from the year 1790 to 1839. And it is said in James Cross introduction that Hahnemann has proved 99 drugs and recorded all the observations in 3 books, which are they? The Fragmenta de Verbis Medicamentorum Positives, Mathematica Pura, and Chronic Disease, where he mentioned about all these drugs which have proved. Actually, Fragmenta is containing 27 medicines, and that was the first one which he published, where he has given all the details of all the provings which he has done on himself and others, and that was the first Mathematica you can get. And next comes the way to his discovery, where he says that James Cross says that Hahnemann used to take 4 grams of China twice a day for his drug proving, and he felt all the symptoms of the intermittent fever following this Peruvian bark, taking this Peruvian bark. And so he says that Hahnemann was his own Columbus and his own Magellan, and he himself has found the way to the truth. And here we also see that he has mentioned about 2 medicines which he used while he started his practice after proving some of the drugs. And the first of the remedy we can see is that it is Veratronal, which is used for colic, and it was used in 1797 for treating the colic patients. And then he also used Naxomica for asthma. And he has treated the patients while he was in Koningsletter, and he started it to continue till its end in Paris. From that time, from Koningsletter, he has started to treat the patients, and the mostly commonly used 2 medicines which we know from James Cross introduction is Veratrum album for colic and Naxomica for asthma. So that was all about the James Cross introduction. And now we pass on to introduction part of Organon. In the introduction part of Organon, you can see that here there is an author's preface to the 6th edition, where you can see that too much of things are given. That is a review of therapeutics, the allopathic and palliative treatment that was practiced at that time in the old school of medicine, and it first appeared in the 4th edition. So here he gives about too much of things, that is about Hippocrates, and after the Hippocrates there was too much of so-called systems emerging, and each of them were given the names according to their own authors, and nothing was scientific. And then comes the treatment with mixtures of unknown medicinal substances, prescription manuals, rational medicine, which they themselves call, and the tolecasm, prima causa morbi, the specific medicines, causal cures, true causal medications, and all these things are their own creations. Each of them comes with a new theory and give a new name to all these things they are practicing. always they look for the prima causa morbis, what is the what is the inside cause which is causing this disease, but they never thought apart from that materialistic view. And each of the time they try to find some specific medicines for certain specific diseases. And always they try to treat with causal cures, that is to cure the cause, and they never found that it is not possible to find the materialistic cause everywhere. And then comes the true causal medication, for which there is an example of pulsatilla that has been given for a gastric disturbance. And that is, in order to have a true causal medication, you have to find the cause from the patient, which will be not materialistic, and you can correct it easily with the homeopathic medicines he is telling. And he also tells in the introduction about a case of acute pleurisy, where a small globule of the decillion fold dilution of acute aconite juice was given. And while you're taking aconite, you have to abstain from the use of vegetable acids, since it takes away all the good effect of aconite that has been used. So all these things are given in the introduction part. And introduction part, it's all about allopathic systems, the so-called systems at that time, their practice, the treatment methods by derivations, the counter irritants, the use of counter irritants, repellent remedies, then deus nature. They are trying to imitate nature, but they never understood that nature's self-help won't be like that of what they are doing. And we are given what too much of intelligence to use in order to save the other suffering human beings. And then comes the enantiopathic palliative remedy, the stimulating and strengthening system, where they're using excitina, nervina, altrantia, like too much of other names given to each of the remedies they're trying to sell at that time. And all these were practiced at that time, for thinking that they're giving the true cures. And there is treatment by mixtures where there will be a base or basis, that is a principal remedy. There will be adjuvants, that is a helper or supporter, and corrigans or a corrective. Even we can see that nowadays also they have a prescriptions like this, but we are not commenting on that. And there are also certain blind homeopathic cures that happened. They also tells about they're also telling about the isopathy, which was found by Mr. M. Lux. And you usually in Organon study about isopathy in footnote out of aphorism 56. But apart from that, we can see that this isopathy has been mentioned in the introduction part, and he there gives about Dr. M. Lex, who was founder of this isopathy. And there are some persons before Hanuman's time who felt the truth of homeopathy, like Baldock, who used the purgative property of rhubarb, found that it was the cause of its power to stop diarrhea. And Detharding, you use the senna leaves infusion to relieve the colic in adults. And Berthelon, and he found that electricity diminishes and removes pain, very similar to which it produces. So something which causes will remove it. They are getting a little bit of idea over it. And there was a Danish army physician Stahl who mentioned the usage of likes. So all these things are there in the introduction part of Organon, where Hahnemann is telling too much of the allopathic then systems prevalent, and he tells about too much of new forms of treatments which we have not heard. So from all these introduction part, there was a question once asked in 2019, where it was asked that who among the following perceived the law of similars prior to the discovery of homeopathy? So before I have told, there was some persons before Hahnemann's time, like Baldock, Stahl and all. But Stahl was the person who thought of the usage of lights. And the exact answer for this is Stahl. So he was the one who perceived the law of similars prior to the discovery of homeopathy. So this I have already told you what is the ground plan and why we need to know about the importance of it. This is the exact what we see in BK Sarkar's Organon of Medicine, the exact part of the doctrinal part, practical part, how they have divided it as in the form of aphorisms, the threefold classification up to the auxiliary treatment measures. So that is from the first aphorism to the last aphorism, which we are going to see from now. So as I've already told that there is a theoretical part and a practical part, and the theoretic part or the doctrinal part, it starts from aphorism 1 to 70, and the practical part, it is from aphorism 71 to 290.